Hello mate, and welcome back to Let's Code Season 3. In this episode we're going to just carry on making screens. I appreciate that a lot of this doesn't make a great deal of sense at the moment, but trust me, when we get to the stage where we start putting these screens to use, it will suddenly make a whole lot of sense. Before I get started, a huge thank you to everybody for subscribing and hitting that notification icon. That really helps me out. And of course, an even bigger thank you to my members and patrons. Your names will be running across the bottom of the screen at the end of the video. Incidentally, if you are interested in supporting the channel, feel free to become a member by hitting the join button next to the subscribe button, or visit the Patreon linked in the description below. So let's get on with this then. So we're going back into our screens folder and we're going to create another file, and this one we're going to call the button screen. So button screen.rpy, and the screen we're going to create is incidentally going to be called the button screen, and there we go. So the first thing we want to do is we want to scroll through all of our list of clickable items, which we don't actually have yet. If we were to go into our variable defines, we don't have anything along those lines yet, so we need to create a brand new class. And the class that we're going to create is going to be called clickies. That's a good name for buttons, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our init Python block in our classes file, and we're going to say init define clicky, and it's going to be an object. It's going to inherit from the object, I should say, and we're going to close that down there. And if you'll notice, I made a deliberate mistake. This is actually meant to read class. There we go. Now we see what we're meant to be seeing. Now we go to define underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and then we can put our properties in. So we can do that now. So the first thing it has to say is self, obviously. After that, we need to give it a name, and then we're going to give it a file name. And this is so we can locate things such as avatars or icons, basically. Then we're going to have where the location of this object is, and then we're going to have the click type, and this will make sense later on. And then we're going to say is active, and then we're going to say tip. So just quickly run through this again. So that's the name that we'll see on the screen of the object. Then the file name is allowing us to address files that maybe not necessarily named the same as the object. The location, spelled incorrectly, which we're going to remedy now, is what room we're going to be in when this object comes onto the screen. The click type, this is going to allow us to use this object or this button screen for more than just objects that are in a room. We can also put navigation buttons in there, for example, if you wanted to have it so that when you click on a door you move onto the room on the other side of it. That would allow us to do that. Is active is fairly self-explanatory. You can turn the objects on or off dependent on where you are. And then tip is the tooltip that's going to appear when you hover the mouse over the icon. Name and simple. So we've got to go through this now. Self.name equals name. Self.file name equals file name. Self.location equals. Keep hitting that button. It must be because I'm sitting slightly skew away from a keyboard. Let me move it. There we go. That's better. Dot. Click type. I need a capital T there. My OCD will set off if I don't. Click type equals click type. Goodness me. It's because I'm looking at the screen and not looking at the keyboard. Self dot is active. Oh my god. Equals is active. Self.tip equals tip. Cool beans. Now we're going to have a couple of properties. So we're going to say property define. That's not correct. Define clickable and self. We're just going to create a string, so avtr equals, and now we're going to create a folder for where all of our PNG files are going to go. So we're going to say clickables .png. Cool beans. Dot format location, comma self.file name. That works. Happy days. Next thing all we need to do is do return avtr like that. And I have fluffed that up because I haven't put it in a colon. Don't want to go putting things in your colon if you can possibly help it. Cool beans. And then the next one is going to be another property. And this one's going to be define effect. And I'm going to spell that correctly. Self. And this is going to allow us to play sound effects when you hover over certain objects. So effect to play equals audio /effects /.mp3 cool beans .format self.file name. So what we're going to have is a directory called audio with effects in it, and we're going to use the file name. As you can see, we use the file name twice. We use it to locate our PNG files in a folder called clickables. The clickables folder is going to have a subfolder for every location, and in those location folders will be the file name with a capital N .png, and then the same thing for sound effects. We're going to have the same thing basically going on there, and then we're going to say if Ren'Py.loadable effect to play. So we're checking if file exists and if it's actually a loadable file. If it's the wrong format or something, it won't work. And then we're going to say return effect to play else, and then we're going to say return audio /effects / I don't know, like click 01.mp3. So we're going to find a file. Oh, that's not a dot, is it? We're going to find a file and we're going to call it click01.mp3, and it's just going to be a default clicking sound, so that if you hover over an object and it doesn't have its own sound effect, it will just play default click. You haven't even got to put this in, to be honest. I'm just doing it because I want my game to have MUE functionality, basically. So now we save that. So now we've got these items here. Now we need to actually create a list of clickable items. So what we need to do is we need to go into our defaults and defines, or our variable defines file, and we need to create some variables. So we come in here and we're going to go default clickies plural equals, and we're going to create an empty list. Now what we need to do is actually create some clickables, which is a little bit more involved, but we can get around that, not a problem. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to say clickies.append, and we're going to put a clicky in there, and then we're going to give it some variables. So the first thing we want to do is just say we're going to put this in, let's just say we've got a chair, living _room _sofa. Fine. Next property, if you remember correctly, so this was the name. We're going to select that and we're going to create, oh, don't want to do that. We want to create another, that's going to be the file name. In this case, the file name is going to be the same, doesn't matter. Then the location will be living _room. It's going to be an item click type. So we'll put item in there, and yeah, all I'm doing is referencing the properties that we've given it in here. So we've got name, file name, location, click type, is active, and tip. So all we need now is to say that this item is indeed active by saying true, and then the tooltip that's going to appear will just say comfy leather sofa. Cool beans. And then that's basically it. What I like to do when I'm creating a list of items inside is I put a hash and then the number that that item is. It just means that if I need to deactivate or reactivate a certain item later on, I can quickly reference this number and know which item in that list we're actually removing. So now we've got that. That's cool. So now we have our list. It's only got one item in it and we're not going to see anything, but this will allow us to just continue on with our code without creating any problems. So we're going to go back to our button screen here, and we're going to carry on with our coding. So the first thing we want to do when we're in here is actually go through that list. So we're going to say for q in keys, and we're going to say if q.location equals location and q dot is active. So if we're in the correct room and the object is active, then we're going to create an image button. And we need to add some properties here. So first thing we have to do is say what's going to happen when it's idle, what's going to happen when it's hovered, what's going to happen when we actually click on it. We want to turn focus underscore mask to true, and then we want to say hovered tt.action q.tip. So we're saying that the tooltip is going to become whatever we set as the tip property of this object, and then we're going to say Ren'Py.play q.effect, and we're going to play it in channel 2, which is the sound effects channel that we created before. So the hover and idle, we want to say q.clickable. We're going to add the same property into there, and then the action we're going to do is we're going to set variable. Spell variable correctly, and it's going to be click type, not the object click type, but the actual click type variable. And we're going to say q dot. Now we're referencing the object's click type, so we're setting the click type variable, which we haven't actually created yet, to be the object click type, and then we're saying return q.name. Cool beans. So the click type variable is going to be how our main UI feeds back to our script file. So in here, we're going to call the main UI, and then when we interact with the main UI, there's going to be two things that are returned. The click type variable is going to be set to whatever kind of object we clicked on. So if it's an object, if it's a door, if it's a map icon, that will then decide what we do from there on in. If, for example, we click on a door, we check the name of the door, we look at where that door leads to, and we change the location to where it leads to. If it's an object, it will say click type will be item, and then it will say if the click type is item, we are going to do whatever is meant to happen when this item is addressed. Nice and simple, really easy way of doing it, but that is our button screen sorted. So now that we have that actually written, we can go back into our main UI. I'm going to copy this, Control C, and I'm going to go into here, and I'm just going to say use button screen. Nice and simple. So that about wraps it up for this episode. Thanks ever so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. In the next episode, we're going to start creating more items that we can use. Let me know, and I'll speak to you guys soon. But until then, take good care of yourselves, alright? Bye-bye.